My friends, welcome to this special episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. I hope you all are doing well. In this episode, I'm doing something that I don't typically do. I am making a request to the company known as FireMaple to remove this product from the market. Inside of this case here is a wood stove that the company calls the Maverick. I have used this stove on 2 occasions, and I can tell you all this. This is one of the most poorly designed products I've ever seen, and at the same time, it's one of the most dangerous that I've seen. Early this morning, I sent FireMaple an email sharing with them the problems, the issues that I have with this wood stove. To be honest, I'm not sure what's going on with FireMaple and this product here, because once you see this, you're going to understand my concerns. You're going to see why this is such a dangerous product, why it's so poorly designed that it should be taken off the market. Folks, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the stove and what you receive, and let's start going over the issues. If you decide to purchase the FireMaple Maverick wood stove, this is what you're going to receive. First off, you get this very nice carry case. I actually like this quite a bit. It's very nice feeling, very premium. It's locked with Velcro. On the inside here, we have instructions on how to set up the stove. The stove comes with a very nice grate system that goes over the top. Unfortunately, I have not been able to use this because my testing with this stove has been so short. Then we have the components for the stove itself. To set up the stove, you need 5 components. You have 4 wall pieces. Then we have what the company calls the ash plate, and this goes in the bottom of the stove itself. With this stove, everybody, we have 2 feeding port pieces. And we have 2 side pieces. With the stove, basically it goes together like this, and it slopes downwards. To set up the walls here, it's very simple. Here we have the stove with the walls attached. Now we need to connect the ash plate. Unfortunately, that's where the setup process of the stove falls apart. You can see here with this ash plate that we have these long extension pieces here, but on the sides going around this, the other connecting points are rather small, rather shallow. This creates problems with inserting this and getting it connected, namely because of warping. Already, this ash plate has warped, and so have the walls on this stove. So no longer do these points all connect nice and snug. What you see here is the best job that I could do installing this ash plate. Because the walls are warped, because the ash plate is warped, it no longer fits correctly. As far as the problems go with this stove, this is relatively minor. This stove has issues and design problems that go far beyond this. That is the stove itself. Now let's go over some stats real quick and let's talk about the big problems with this stove. On Amazon, at the time of filming, this stove costs $45. On the FireMaple website, it is on sale for $34. This stove is made from stainless steel, and you receive the canvas case. The weight of this stove with the case is 2.6 pounds. When the stove is stored, it is 12 inches long by 7.5 inches wide. When the stove is set up, it stands 5 inches tall, and it's 11 inches by 11 inches. With that being said, there are 2 versions of this stove. With this being 11 inches by 11 inches, this is obviously the square version. There is a triangle version of this stove. I personally have not tested out that stove, but it features the same sloped wall design. And that means the same issues that I have for this stove apply for it as well. Now, my friends, let's begin going over the problems that I have concerning this stove. We're going to skip over the pros for now because I really don't have any. I have some minor ones, but they really mean nothing in regards to this stove itself. So let's just start right off with the walls being sloped like you can see here, in addition to the large feeding ports that you have on each side of the stove. This stove is an absolute fire hazard. All of the debris that's above these feeding ports falls out through those holes and onto the ground. And again, it's because of those sloped walls. The burning material inside of the stove has nowhere to go except for out of those feeding ports, right onto the ground. When I first saw pictures of this stove on the FireMaple website before I purchased it, I was scratching my head. I was just thinking to myself, have they tested this out? Does this make any sense? Obviously, just by looking at it, you can see what the issue is going to be, but I was willing to gamble on it. I purchased it thinking maybe there was something that I was overlooking, but no. This stove features one of the worst designs that I've ever seen. And to be honest, I'm just shocked. I'm flabbergasted that the company has released this. I have reviewed many wood stoves over the years that are dangerous, but this takes it to a new level. And it's all because of the strange design of this stove. I have never seen a wood stove that has big open feeding ports where the walls are sloped. It just makes no sense. So again, everything that's above those feeding ports falls out through those holes. Plus, everything else that's in the center, as it's burning, it's moving around, it too has a strong possibility of falling out through those feeding ports as well. Next, everybody, we have to talk about how this stove sits directly on the ground. There's no separation from the stove itself and from the ground below. This too is a big fire hazard because you have to think about, this is a large size stove. It contains a lot of fuel. When that fuel is burning, it becomes super hot, and that includes the ash plate. Anything that's underneath this stove will burn and it will catch on fire. The company claims that this does not happen, but that's not true. In the last trip out that I did with this stove, I placed it directly on the ground and it burned the absolute out of it. There were times where the ground was on fire, and it's all because of just how hot this stove can become. Because the stove can become so hot, we have substantial warping with the walls and the bottom ash plate. Warping that's so bad, it does prevent the stove from going together correctly, as you all can see here. Because the ash plate doesn't fit within the stove because of warping, it has a tendency to fall out of the stove, which is again a fire hazard. You take all of these aspects and you combine them, you have one of the poorest designed products that I've seen possibly ever. It is without a doubt the most dangerous wood burning stove that I've ever seen. I really am surprised by this because I'm testing out some other FireMaple products and they're really good. But this here just is mind-numbingly bad. As far as the pros that I have for this stove, I'm not even going to touch upon them because this stove is so poorly designed, it's so dangerous. I don't want to encourage anyone to purchase this. This is a product that's going to lead to nothing but trouble. We're talking about forest fires, we're talking about fines at parks and so on. This is not something that anyone should purchase. It really is because of all the reasons that I stated that I've recommended to the company that they remove this product from the market. It's interesting to me, folks, that I've read hundreds of reviews online for this stove. All of them are glowing. Not a single one touch upon the issues of the stove itself. Not a single one. And you could just look at this stove and you could see that there's going to be some serious problems. And unfortunately, there's not much you can do to solve these issues. You can put this stove on some rocks or something like that. But again, you're still talking about debris falling out of the stove. If it's windy, it's being blown around. You just simply cannot take those types of chances, especially in dry areas. Yes, there are things that you could do to lower the chances of a fire spreading from this stove. But in the end, it really doesn't matter because the design of the stove is so poor. Taking a second to talk about the 2 trips that I've done out with this stove. The first one, it was so dry that I did not feel comfortable putting this stove on the ground. So I took some rocks and I built up a platform. But even on that rock platform, we experienced the issues that I spoke of, namely with the burning debris falling out of the feeding ports. On the second trip, rain was coming in, it was quite a bit wetter, so I felt comfortable enough to test this stove out by placing it directly on the ground. And as you can see here, it burned a perfect size hole right into the ground, multiple inches deep. And at the same time, you could see the fire spreading around this stove here. And the cause for the fire to spread is twofold. 1, we have burning debris falling out of the stove. 2, this stove is insanely hot and it's laying directly on the ground. You can easily see there, my friends, the issues that this stove has, and it's because of these issues that this stove is simply unsafe to use. Now, my friends, it is time for you all to sound off in the comment sections down below. Share your thoughts. What do you all think about this stove? I already know that most of you are going to be shocked by the poor design of this. I've already shared this with my Patreon members and YouTube members, and every single comment was the same. Everybody was floored by this. I am too. I'm shocked. Shocked and awed, but not in a good way. What do you think FireMaple is going to do with this stove? Are they going to pull it from the market? I don't know. It's in their hands now. I've done all that I can do. As far as my viewers go, you all have been warned. You all have been shown the issues, the problems with this stove. And to put it bluntly, I do not recommend that you purchase this product. There are much better wood stoves out on the market than this. This simply makes no sense. Again, I've tested out and reviewed stoves that I consider to be dangerous, but this takes it to a whole new level. This is completely unacceptable, and I hope the company does something about it. If you have found this episode to be helpful, hit the thumbs up. It does help the channel a lot. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Also, if you want to support a channel that's agenda-free, that's keeping companies honest, pointing out the flaws with their designs, the Outdoor Gear Review is a great channel to support because it's agenda-free. You can join the Wolfpack on YouTube and on Patreon. Folks, I appreciate it. Everybody take care, be well. Strength and honor.